primary ignition.
Welcome to Unlimited Power, and I'm going to show you my guide to building a Director Krennic deck in your sealed or pre-release event. First thing we got to do is understand what Director Krennic does in Star Wars Unlimited. When he's a leader and he's already deployed, he's a 2/7 unit, so he doesn't hit hard, but he has a lot of health, and he has the Restore 2 ability. This means every time he attacks, he's going to be able to heal your base for 2. So he's a great card that you can kind of build upon, and I'll show you some of the commons and uncommons that I think will work well with this ability. His second ability is a static ability, and he has this whether he's deployed or in your ground arena, and it's each friendly unit gets +1/+0. So that means every time your units get damaged by your opponent, you're going to be increasing the amount of damage that you can do. Only by 1 though. So think of it kind of like the Hulk. Every time he gets angrier, he gets stronger. The more your units get damaged, they get stronger. They only get stronger by 1 point, but still, that can make a big difference. Let's start taking a look at the commons and uncommons I would say you should put in your deck to maximize some of these abilities. First one's going to be Scout Bike Pursuer. It's a 2-cost unit, meaning if you get it in your opening hand, you can play it immediately. It's a 1/4 with Grit. Grit is a great ability to pair with Krennic. Grit says for every point of damage that the unit has, it increases the amount of attack that it can do. Because the Scout Bike Pursuer has Grit and a health of 4, this means it can take 3 points of damage before it has to die at 4, and it can hit an opponent for 4. So as long as there's 3 points of damage on the Pursuer, he's a 3/4. With Krennic, he's a 4/4. Or sorry, he's a 4/4 when he hits, which just makes it really much better. Lieutenant Childson's going to be my next favorite. He's a card that pairs well with mostly blue leader decks because when you play it, you reveal 4 cards from your hand, and for each blue card revealed this way, give an experience token to the unit. You give it to Childson clearly, he has Sentinel, and you have the possibility of making him a 6/6 on your 3rd turn. This card can get damaged, and that's what you want to see because now he hits for 7. Great card. Last one is the Death Trooper. On theme with the Rogue One movie that we find Krennic in, and we see the Death Troopers introduced, Death Troopers come into play early on turn 2, and they can deal 2 damage to any unit that you control, including themselves, to deal 2 damage to another unit. So if you don't have any of your own units, like a Scout Bike Pursuer or a Lieutenant, you can hit the Death Trooper, and you're going to increase its damage output to 4. Yes, you do risk your opponent hitting it for 1 damage and it dying, but the amount of damage you can inflict if you can get a swing in with them is going to be worth the pain. Next is going to be some of the Vigilant specifics cards. My favorite is Devotion. Devotion's a 2-cost upgrade that gives you Restore 2 and a +1/+1. Playing this on Krennic means you're going to be able to restore 4 every time he attacks, and he's going to go up to 8 health. He still doesn't hit very hard, but your opponent's going to want to spend some time dealing with him. Next is Baze Malbus. Also from the Rogue One movie, Baze has Grit, allowing him to deal more damage based on how much he takes, and he gains Sentinel as long as you have the initiative. Sentinel is really important with Krennic. As long as your Sentinel units can survive 1 attack, they're going to be able to hit harder for the next unit that your opponent has to take and swing with. Lastly is Rugged Survivors, and you're going to see that Grit ability again. They come out as a 3/5. That means they can maximize their damage output all the way to 7 and 8 with Krennic in play. So 8 damage for a 5-cost unit sounds really good. And if Krennic is still alive, you can draw a card every time you attack with them. Next, we'll look at villains. General Veers is a great one to pair with Krennic because you're mostly going to be playing some Imperial units. Krennic has a lot of strong blue Imperial units that work well with him, like the Death Trooper, the Lieutenant, and the Scout Bike Pursuer. Veers is going to give all of them the +1/+1 static ability, as well as Krennic himself. It can be rewarded for this. Next is the Cell Block Guard with Sentinel, which we've already discussed, and Maximum Firepower. With your leader having an Imperial attribute, you should be able to play this card and deal some damage to an opponent's unit. You should also be able to gather another Imperial unit so you can maximize the amount of damage you do. It's a low-cost damaging card. I think it's worth your time. Let's look at Yellow, the Cunning aspect. Cartel Spacer is just really a nice card that has a good amount of health for low cost. Putting out low cost units that can absorb some damage is really going to help you put pressure on your opponent. So Cartel Spacer is an easy card to play turn 1. You know it can take some damage with that 3 health. You can move forward. No Good to Me Dead is a non-damaging event, but I think it's going to help you deal with some stuff that's giving you trouble with Krennic. Big units that you don't really want to see swing on you because they can kill your Sentinel units, or maybe it's your opponent's leader and you're trying to, take away their strategy. It's a great uncommon, and it's going to buy you 2 turns. Last is the 7th Fleet Defender, a card with low health, but comes into play and immediately shields itself. I am a big fan of 7th Fleet Defender at its cost and what it can do, and it can guarantee 2 turns. If you are playing an Imperial build, you may find some other benefits with that ability. For the aggression aspect, we're going to kind of go a little bit in 3 different directions. One is the 5th Brother, a uncommon unique character that gets stronger based on the damage it does. He has the Raid 1 bonus. For each damage on him, he's going to deal more damage when he attacks. Now, unlike other units that are damaged or that have grit, they don't get stronger with the damage tokens the whole time when they have the Raid ability. They only get this buff when they attack. So, if you're able to play 5th Brother with Krennic and it's damaged, you'll be able to increase its damage output for a maximum amount of 6 damage. That's really great, as well as 5th Brother can damage himself to take advantage of Krennic's ability. Next is the Partisan Insurgent, a great card when you're playing multiple red units because it has a good amount of health, so it can take the damage and get Krennic's bonus, and another red unit's going to give it Raid 2. So you can easily make this 1-turn unit a 4/4 by the 2nd turn when it attacks. And last is Open Fire. It's going to be able to deal 4 damage to a unit, your choice of whether yours or your opponent's. You'll probably choose your opponent's most of the time since 4 is a lot of damage, and it's again going to help you deal with some cards you don't really want swinging at you or into your damaged units. And lastly, we're going to take a look at the command aspect. Green. Homestead Militia here is a good fringe trooper. It doesn't have an Imperial bonus, but he's 3/4, so he's a good amount of health. And later in the game, he'll be, when you have 6 resources, he's a Sentinel unit. Sentinel's going to be key for Krennic maximizing some damage. Forcing your opponents to swing into these units is important as long as they can survive at least 1 attack so they can kill maybe 2 units themselves. Next is Overwhelming Barrage. If you follow my streams, I don't have to tell you much about this card. It can equalize you, or it can get you ahead in your games. It's a great one to put on any Imperial unit, as it allows you to split up damage as you choose. That's helpful with someone like Krennic in case you need to do 1 point of damage to some of your own units. Lastly is the Seasoned Shore Trooper, who only gets stronger when you have 6 resources, but he also has a good 3 health, meaning he probably won't die early on. So these are my cards that I'd recommend that you try with your Director Krennic deck at your future pre-release or sealed events. Good luck to everyone out there. Have fun, and may the Force be with you.